Alright, you bastards, this is Some-Belgian-prepper, and today I'm going to tell you about 15 survival uses of a simple padlock. But before we do that, if you're interested, in the description there will be a link where my first book is, the link to my first book is shown. It's called Bloody Crosses, it's in Dutch, and if you're interested, I would say take a look. So, simple padlock. Why would a prepper always have this with them, or could be handy to have them with? I'm going to show you 15 reasons why you should have a padlock, and some are perhaps things that are obvious, and some things will be that I almost never anybody heard talking about. But the most reason I use this is because this is my EDC. I always keep a padlock inside of it for several reasons, and the biggest one is to go to the gym. The gym has lockers, and if I would not put this standard in my EDC, I always would forget the key. The same thing goes for the bike. Sometimes you lose the key of your bike lock, and if you have one in your EDC, you can still manage a little bit. So yeah, could be handy for everyday situations or some inconvenience. The next thing I would say is to keep your back locked. This is an example. You can do this with a backpack, an EDC backpack, or just a bug-out bag. If you have zippers like this, and you're scared that somebody might get into your bag, could be for several situations. For example, you just on the train and you have a long train in to go ahead, and yeah, you're a little bit sleepy. You doze a little bit off, and some of those sneaky bastards, they will open while you're asleep, they will open your bag and take something out of it. If you close the bag, if it has two zippers, you can just put them together, and they cannot get it open enough if the padlock is on top of it. The same thing goes with a bug-out bag. If you're in a bug-out bag, sometimes you're going to sleep somewhere, even if you're a refugee or when you're alone. If you're sleeping, the chance is big especially when you're in a deep sleep, somebody will come to your bag and they will try to open it to find something valuable. So it's more safe to close it off. Many people would say, but they can just take the bag. Yeah, but then they have evidence that they were stealing. Most thieves are a little bit of the, how do you say this, cowardly nature. They don't want to take too many risks. So if you open a bag, take it out. That's less of a risk than take the whole bag and be recognized with it. And yeah, then more people could go behind you after you, because yeah, you pissed off every person in the area that will now know the description of somebody who's stealing stuff. And in a SHTF situation, that's not good for that person. But to prevent all this stuff, just lock your bug-out bag. And it's also handy for if you have a bug-out bag and you're going to foraging, hunting, and you have to leave your big bug-out bag behind. Just close it off, just to be sure that nobody will be just opening your bag and take the best stuff out of it. Alright. Next thing is as an improvised weapon. Yeah, many people would already thought about this, but an improvised weapon could be several things. Most thing I would say that would be most handy as a weapon is use a little piece of rope. If you have a rope or a chain, and use it as a weight to, like in the movies. It will, any attacker or aggressor or robber, they will not want to be hit by this at full swing. So it could be used as a deterrent or as a physical way to defend yourself. I would always say run away, but sometimes you just have to fight. And yeah, especially if the other person is armed, you need to utilize anything that you have. So yeah, the same thing goes if you have something like a rack or like a shamak. You can put it in the end of the shamak, take the shamak and use it the same way as a weighted sling around. So yeah, those are things that you can also do with it. What's the next thing? The closing of ripped clothing or your pants. What do I mean by that? We all do sometimes stupid things. If we try to climb over fences with barbed wire, for examples, or we go through abandoned buildings and we rip our clothing by a sharp edge or something. you could have you could rip something really big off your pants, of your vest, and yeah, it could be annoying that you don't always have the time to sew it. So what you can do is, if you have a big rip in your clothing, just put it the biggest part together and just puncture a hole and put a lock in, to connect the big pieces at least, so that you don't run with half of your clothing open, is what I'm trying to say. So that could be handy. The same thing goes for pants. Sometimes in some situations you need your belt, or your belt is broken or snapped or something. You can use your pants to, especially when it's with how do you say this, with knots, not the knots, but buttons is the name. If your buttons are away, perhaps you can use those holes to put it together and have something like this to keep your pants up. Could be handy, but yeah, what are the chances? Next thing is, this is something that I find very handy, and it is a handle for plastic bags or to carry objects. What do I mean by that? If you are coming from the supermarket, you will probably have some of these plastic bags, but if the bag is full, or something else that you need to carry, many people will, especially when it's heavy, it will cut into your hands. That could be very, very annoying or very painful if you carry a lot of things in a small plastic bag. So what you can do is, you can open your lock, hold it like this, and use it as a better carrying handle for big heavy bags. And that way you will have you have more grip and less pain to your hands for carrying a bag that could have very thin handles like this. So yeah, that's a nice little hack for everyday scenarios. Could also be used to carry firing wood. If you have some firewood, put a rope around it and use this to carry the firewood around the rope that is around it. So yeah, it's a little bit better for grabbing something in like with a hook wise. Next thing I would say is, of course, for practicing lockpicking. I have tried to picklock all of my padlocks, and that's the reason why I have different types of padlocks, because it's easy when you're going to do some picklocking. Sometimes you get one of those practice locks that are see-through, but those are very big holes. If you can picklock something small like this, then you can try to master several sorts of locks to picklock. So for practicing picklocking, this padlock is very, very handy, especially when it's just a normal one like in real life and not a practicing ones. Next thing is, if you have a lock with you, you can lock doors in case of emergencies. And what do I mean by that? If there is a spree killing going on, a mass shooter, a school shooting, or a terrorist attack, sometimes you need to lock yourself in a certain place. And if you have a door that you can lock with something like this, especially from the inside, then it could be handy to stop, or in the best case, slow down the spree killer or terrorist to move in a certain part of the building, and by that time you can win some time that the cops arrives. Next thing I would say is for evasion reasons. I know this might sound stupid, but if you are for evasion, I would say there are several things you can do with this. First of all, could sound very stupid, but this has some weight, and if you want some pursuers distracted, throw it in the other direction than you're going, and this is some hefty weight, so you can throw it very far away. Many people would say pick up a rock, but rocks are not always available. And another thing is, a rock makes a distinguished sound, and another thing is, you don't always have rocks by hand, and if you have small ones, those cannot go far enough. A lock is very hefty. You can throw it very, very far away and make a distraction that you can and get away by while your pursuers are going the other way. Another thing is, if you can mislead your pursuers on two ways, I would say. The first one is, if you go into a building in a door, and you can put a lock on the door like this. If the pursuers are not, if they are in a little bit stress, if they are not that really alert, then they could not, they will not notice that the lock is actually not fully closed. And if they see a door with a lock, in the first moments they will think, oh, he can never gone through that door because it has a lock on it. So it's a little bit of a misleading. Another misleading way is by putting it next to an open lock next to a door, because your pursuers will think here lies a very fresh lock because it has no rust around it to this door. He must have gone through that door. So those are two ways you can use to utilize a padlock to mislead your pursuers, is what I'm trying to say. Next thing is this is actually might sound stupid, but climbing a fence. If you have a fence where you can get over, where you want to get over it, you know, one of those chain link fences. Many people would say, yeah, why do you need a lock for that? You can just like you know, like in the movies, climb through it. But sometimes those chain link fence are so, they have so small holes that you cannot put a finger through it. So what you can do is, like with the handle of the bag, you can use it as a grip, hook it into as high as possible into a small hole of the chain link fence, and pull yourself up. But yeah, I know that the other hand cannot go through the fence, but by pulling yourself up as much as possible, you win height by getting by trying to get over the edge, your other hand over the edge of the fence, and that way you can get over fences with very small chain links where you otherwise would have very big problems with getting your big fingers through the small holes. So yeah, that's a little hack that you can do in as a last ditch thing to get away from certain places or get into places for I'm not saying I'm condoning scavenging, but sometimes these are the things you have to do. And another thing is hanging, just for small things like camping or bugging out, hanging a lamp. If you are sleeping in a tent or whatever, some things where you have to hang a lamp, you can just hang the lamp on the hook and click it to the top of a branch or your tent. And that's just in case you don't have one of those carabine hooks. So that way you can, if you don't have one of these, you can use this as an improvised one. Another thing is, and this might sound weird, but by the way, this gun is empty, so don't worry. As a gun, as a trigger lock. So what do I mean by that? You can, if you have a gun, put it behind the trigger, and I know many people will say that will do nothing. You can still fire the gun, but as you can see, some guns, they, especially if it's a bigger one, they will not fully be able to fully shoot. So if you can see, it will be very harder. See, I cannot fully cock. I cannot fully pull in the trigger, so it cannot even fire. So it could be an improvised trigger lock. So in case you have to leave your gun alone for some reason, if there are children during your bug out, or just in your home, or you go somewhere else with our children and you've forgotten your trigger lock or something, this could be a handy way to prevent that someone will fire a gun without when you don't want to actually. So I'm going to try. As you can see, even when I try to pull the cock behind, it's still not working. And I'm doing everything I can. But like I said, it has to be one of those stick locks. If it's one of those smaller ones, it could fully pull the trigger. So yeah, as an improvised trigger lock, I would say it's a handy way to lessen the chance that someone will pull the trigger when you don't want to. Another thing is fishing hook. Yeah, this is just self-explanatory. If you sharpen this, you can use this as a fishing hook for actually kind of large fish. So for small fish, it's not really handy. So yeah, that could be a little bit annoying. Another thing is puncture holes. If you can sharpen this part of the padlock to something sharp, as you can see, there's the hole where you can put it through. If you want to puncture a hole like something thick like leather or cotton, you can put like the fabric over the hole, and you put the sharpened, how do you say it, the sharpened, this sharpened part of the padlock, and you can puncture that material that way. But you have to sharpen it, but you can sharpen it with, as even if you have rocks, you can sharpen it that way, in case you need to puncture holes. So I would say during a bug out, because perhaps during a bug out or some other survival situation, you need to puncture holes, and a padlock is not very much of use then, or when it's broken. Another thing is to make a shelter. If you want to put two tarps together, yeah, we know those tarps with those rings on the side, you can connect two or even three like those together, lock it firmly, and they will not get loose. So that's in case you want, if you have problems with making knots and they will slip off. So yeah, or if you don't have much time to set up a shelter made out of rope, you can just put something quickly together with a lock like this. So I would say if you have it, use it, I would say. Another thing is, last thing, might sound stupid, but I needed to get to 15, so here it comes. Open a bottle. Yeah, I know, sounds stupid, but yeah, now we have at least 15 survival uses of the simple padlock. If you have another thing you can do with a padlock for survival uses or for prepping, please let me know in the comments. I'm always eager to learn new things or to take other people's perspective that I would never have even thought about. So please let me know if you know another use for this. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff, and thank you for watching, and see you in the next video. Cheers!